the Odyssey spoilers. So this is a film, obviously, if you haven't seen it, this is probably a perfect time to skip out because we're about to go into heavy spoilers. Starting in...
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a film like many Nolan films that is non-linear. But if we're going to go from the very beginning, this movie really kicks off with Odysseus. He is being strong-armed essentially by Agamemnon into joining the Battle of Troy. And he's doing that because Agamemnon is threatening him with taking Telemachus, his son. And that really kicks off this story and this gigantic epic that takes 20 years of his life, 10 years in the Battle of Troy and 10 years trying to get back home. And I really like how this movie progresses, and we really kick off from there and getting into the 10-year war, that it really ends with the Trojan horse and the impact that has in everything that progresses from this film. It's very exciting to see. It's a very visually dazzling spectacle of the moment, but it also has significant repercussions for the rest of the film.
I would say that story of the Trojan horse, we've all heard it before, but seeing it on the big screen at a whole different level, the whole different experience, especially coming from Nolan, the way he does it, it's fantastic. And then we see this horse going inside the city, and then all the aftermath that comes with it, the war, the battle, the bloodshed. And this, I think this horse is really the core of what brings down Odysseus and everything.
A lot of this scene or this whole battle really has a lot of symbolism that kind of foreshadows things to come, and how Odysseus, a lot of what Odysseus is going through, especially with one of the things, the woman he sees beheaded, he sees that as Athena going forward, and that kind of just shows the amount of guilt he has for a lot of what he did in the city of Troy during that battle, and essentially how a lot of people see him as a hero, but he doesn't really see himself as a hero, and he feels a lot of the loss that he's put his men through, which is later seen right after when they're speaking to the people of the underworld. You see essentially his whole army that are basically saying like, hey, you kind of just left us there to die, or you haven't honored us. And I think that scene really shows how much guilt he has and what he's trying to push when he's trying to get his soldiers home.
I think the Battle of Troy represents the beginning of the end, especially because they come from a civilization where they believe in Zeus's law, where treating everybody equally and being helpful, respectful to them. But them infiltrating Troy contradicts the value they have, and it starts this whole beginning of the end. And Odysseus pays for this throughout the journey trying to go back home. He loses men, he loses everything, he loses his sanity at one point too, all because of his greediness he had and trying to show that he is better than everybody else.
For me, yeah, I think the big thing is kind of harping on what you said earlier. And the big thing in this story is the Trojan horse really escalates and really has significant repercussions for everything going forward. And that's because he breaks Zeus's law. Because he's viewed as a hero by basically the world, by basically the people of Troy, but also people back in Ithaca. The stories that are being told, obviously you see with the bard who keeps saying that like him in a way of telling the story of the big sacrifices, the wins of Odysseus, like the biggest successes that he's had. But in reality, he feels all this guilt. And that's because he broke what is sacred in this world. He broke Zeus's law. He broke everything that is good between people. He ended up, basically the Trojan horse was meant to be a gift to the people of Troy as a sign of peace. And instead they were in the horse and they broke Zeus's law. They broke the good faith that they had as people. And by breaking in there, but it also led to the end of the Battle of Troy. And that's the big thing, because this is a significant thing. That was basically the only way to end the war. A war that lasted 10 years, taking 10 years out of his life, 10 years out of the life of his men, of the people involved in this war. But at what cost? It did lead to significant repercussions. And then obviously, because they broke Zeus' law, and he feels completely responsible. And I think that's why the scene at the very end, where he's talking to Penelope, he returns not as a man, not as Odysseus, because he doesn't feel like Odysseus anymore. He doesn't feel like this man, this great man that he was, this powerful man that he was, this king of Ithaca. He's now just a man that is a shell of what he once was, who is guilty of what he was. That's why I think it's significant. He returns as a beggar. He returns as a man without a name. They keep asking him who he is, and he's like, I'm nobody. I'm a person who was involved in the battle, but I am not who they say I am. And that's why I think the scene with Penelope is so significant at the very end.
Well, a lot of what happens after he leaves Troy, what I noticed upon like kind of just thinking about it, he breaks Zeus's law multiple times.
Consistently, yeah.
Every single time he goes on a new island with his men, the first one being, or at least the first one we see, is with Polyphemus.
Yeah, the Cyclops, yeah.
Yes, he goes in there. He essentially is like, oh, he's gotta keep us, or he has to give us food, or because of Zeus's law. But then once they realize that he's a Cyclops,
All of that goes out the window, essentially.
especially when he starts losing men, but they're essentially invading his territory, and that's where a lot of the differences from the movie to the book start, just because of how in the book he's more witty on how he does things, and I don't think there's a big reliance on like Zeus's law as it is in the film. And that's kind of a thing that in between adaptations gets lost, because he's the smartest guy you want to have on the battlefield, because he's not the strongest, but he makes people think he's the strongest. And through all his events, he always finds a way to get out of the situation. While in the film, I feel like he breaks the law, and then he takes the consequences. And I think in the book, he does take certain consequences, especially after the Polyphemus incident and him being cursed. But after that, he doesn't really lose his men. Or if he does, it's like more minimal than it is in the film.
I think for me, like I was trying to say, I think what this movie really does well, because I've learned bits and pieces from the original story, and from what I gathered, it wasn't so much, it was more about him and his wits and his smarts. And that was like his, in a way, his ego. And that's really like the big thing. What I love that Nolan does here, and this movie really relies on his guilt. And he's guilty of everything that's happened. He feels completely responsible for everything that's happened. And that's why I think it really works, because there's an emotional core to this movie. And it's his guilt. That's why I think the ending, at the very end, when he comes back as a beggar, he has that conversation with Penelope. And he starts talking to her about everything. He starts talking to her about how they broke everything that's sacred in this world. How they broke Zeus's law. And he feels completely responsible for everything that's happened since. And the reveal that through all their misadventures, everything that they did, they are the sea people. They are the people that everybody's afraid of. The people that are gonna come in and take everybody, like destroy everything and take over everything.
No, you're right. You're right. It's the thing they're most afraid of are themselves at the end of the day. They're the one who created this. They created this image of some people coming in, storming the castle, let's say, taking whatever they want without caring about anything else. No, not caring about Zeus's law, who was there, children, women, anything. They just go, take what they want, and leave. And that's what Ithaca is afraid of. They're all afraid of these people coming in and taking over what they have.
This ideal that turns out to be them.
And at the end of the day, yeah, you're right. It's just them themselves doing this. They're causing terror all over the place. And it shows that once you break something, it's hard to come back from that, and you just create this whole mess that it's hard to deal with.
Yeah, because in this movie, you're really dealing with the repercussions of what he's done. And you do see it. You see it especially with the suitors for Penelope, the people that are trying to go for Penelope's hand. Initially, they're just there, and they've been there for a very long time. They specify that they've been there for a very long time.
Yeah, and as time goes by, you see how they get more aggressive and aggressive, and this kind of shows how
the scheme.
Exactly, like how Odysseus, when he started off with the Trojan War, it was simple. He still believed in Zeus's law, but toward the end of it, he broke Zeus's law by using the Trojan horse to get inside.
Yeah, and then from there, he just keeps suffering from there. The simple repercussions of what he did there leads everything else. The journey to try to get home, that becomes a 10-year journey for him. He loses all of his men. He feels completely responsible because a lot of it is his fault, the decisions that he's making. Polyphemus is a big one that you guys had mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
With Polyphemus, he makes the decision at the very end to shoot him with the arrow. And I know it's very different in the original story, but in the film, the way it's portrayed is, it's almost like a sign of like, F you. Like, this guy spit out the helmet of one of his men, and he values his men so much, and he wants more than anything to bring his men home, whatever it takes. And to see that moment, it's a moment of rage where he shoots him back. And his men are even questioning why he did that. But from there, it's also the things that he's making, all the decisions that he's making. It leads to the point where his crew keeps like getting massacred by half almost every adventure, every place that they dock. Everything goes horrifically wrong. And it's because they keep upsetting Zeus. And it all starts really with Polyphemus. Because from there, he's now cursed by the gods. And everything just keeps going south from there.
And it's more because of, it's an ego thing. Book, movie, I think they play it off as Odysseus thinks he's better. In the movie, I believe they mentioned that he thinks he's better than the gods, than Athena, than Zeus.
Yeah, because he's always feeling like he's against the gods. So everybody keeps saying, is like, I don't, like, basically he keeps saying, I don't care what the gods think.
Yes, and it leads to a lot of his misfortune, as you mentioned. And something I wanted to kind of bring up is with the suitors, you kind of see a mirror of what Odysseus is going, at least how they filmed it, or it's portrayed. The more Odysseus gets closer to being home, the more the suitors become more like the sea people that are mentioned. So for the longest time, you just think that's what the story is going to be, them turning into the sea people and attacking Penelope and the kingdom of Ithaca. And so Odysseus arrives and kind of just does his whole thing near the climax.
Yeah, and a lot of it is, it's him saving, I view it almost like as him saving Ithaca from what he created. He created this mess. Everything that has happened has transpired. It's because he broke Zeus' law. Everything that has happened since. So he's almost there to fix the mess he originally made. And I think it's powerful too that he doesn't take the throne back. I know you've mentioned before that in the original story he takes the throne back. But he wants to go in exile. He wants to like pay tribute in a way to his men, to those that he lost, that he feels responsible for losing. And first things first though is he's got to save Ithaca. He's got to see his wife. He's got to see his son. But he's got to save this land that he loves so much and make it a cleaner place, a safer place from what he's created.
Adding on a little bit to that, actually, he's trying to just make sure that his son is able to rule the kingdom without anybody interfering.
Yeah.
Or anybody saying, "Oh, it's only him. We'll kill him and then we'll take over." He's trying to secure that place for him, saying that I am the one in charge here.
Yeah.
You will not mess around, and you will do as you are told.
Yeah, and it's almost a mess. I'm saying it's like a mess he created, and it's him putting things in the right place, and then also doing his duty to himself and to his men, going in exile and retreating and paying homage to those that he lost, that fell under his command, that he feels responsible for.
Something I want to add is in the story, in the book, we get a different progression of how Odysseus comes to be the warrior or the person we see near the end of the book, and that's through seeing all the people that have, like, all the Greek heroes that came before him that kind of told him like, hey, you keep acting this way, this is what's going to happen. We can only guide you so much, or we can only do so much to help you before essentially it becomes your flaw.
I was gonna add a little bit on to the prior part where the Odysseus exiles himself. If I'm not mistaken, there's part of the film that mentions that one of the reasons he's also exiling is because he killed most of the suitors inside. So the family is those families are gonna come after him and get revenge if he's exiled.
And that's why they makes it very clear to Telemachus, to his son, that he can't do that. Yeah. He can't be the one responsible for killing the suitors. It has to be him. So therefore, he can be in exile, and they can go after him.
And therefore leaving the kingdom to the son without any issues.
Yeah, I think overall, this movie's sensational. I know there's some people that have said otherwise, and I get it, it can be a little dense, but I think it's just so compelling. It's such a compelling watch. It's really helped by the score that is really bombastic and very much makes you like feel like you're part of this world. I know you're a big proponent and a big fan of the way the effects look, the use of practical effects.
Yeah, to me, that's one of the biggest things. Most of this film does not use any CGI, which is almost unheard of nowadays with computer technology. Some of the scenes, the behind the scenes of this, are insane how they shot it, the conditions how they had to go through, but it pays off watching it on the big screen. Honestly, it's great knowing that there's no CGI. Of course, there's bits
There
and
is CGI,
pieces.
but it's
but it's
limited
really minimal. It's
compared
really
to like
minimal.
what you would get in any other blockbuster. Pretty much.
Exactly. Any other film was you use a lot of CGI, but for this, the practical effects, and if you look at the behind the scenes, it's insane what they did to create these effects.
Yeah, one of those being the island of giant warriors. In the book, they're supposed to be giants, like 11 to 12 feet tall. And what they did to remedy that in the more grounded Christopher Nolan version of it is we're going to get some really tall people that are like 7 feet, and we're going to put them with someone that's like 5 feet, and that's going to be the whole scene. Also, you got to bring our boy Matt Damon home.
Always trying to get home every single time. But you know what? If he keeps making movies like this, if you look at our track record, Interstellar, fantastic. The Martian, awesome. This one, pretty damn good. So
But
I think
how much has Hollywood spent trying to bring Matt Damon home now?
all the money, and fuck it, let's do it again.
It's 600 million, so let's throw in a couple more and see if we finally get him home to Ben Affleck.
Yeah. But yeah, this movie's fantastic. I understand people have their own opinions. For me, I think it's fantastic. I think the messaging, I think the story, the messaging and the core that Nolan like really integrates into the story. Not to mention with the visuals and just the pre-existing story that we had, the climactic battle, the journey to get there. The scene with Argus, his dog, is an emotional gut punch, a really iconic moment from that story, for example. And the way that is paid off, it really, anybody that has a pet or has had a pet that they've lost, it really hits you in the heart. And in general, I think this movie really succeeds and is exceptional because of its ending, and you don't get that ending without the journey to get there and what Odysseus has gone through, and you see that. And because of what he's gone through, everything that leads up to it, that's what makes the ending really hit. And it makes it so compelling. And that action scene, which could be very boring, like, ooh, just action, this and that, it has emotional weight to it because of you've been watching for like 2 hours of what's happened.
Not only does it have emotion, but it also has a significance to it, knowing that he's back home. He is
In the land that he loved, with people that he hasn't seen in so long that look so different from what they used to.
and they don't see him as Odysseus because he comes in as a beggar.
Yeah.
And when he proves to everybody he's Odysseus and reveals himself, everybody is shocked.
Everybody's like shits themselves, basically.
Exactly. They're like, "Oh my God, he's back! He's back home." People don't know how to react. Some of them want to kill him. Others,
Like Neo shows signs of respect, yeah.
yeah, there's a sign of respect where you honor your king that you had because he's not dead. But this whole journey coming back home, taking 10 years, everything had to go through. Not only that, but on the way back, there was the part where he's stuck on an island. And he had to suffer through everything he had to see with his men. These people he wanted to bring home, which unfortunately didn't make it.
Yeah, and he kept trying to defy the gods. He kept trying to do everything in his power to get them home. He even goes to Hades, and in Hades they tell him the same thing, that he's going to lose everybody. They give him different scenarios of what's going to happen, and in every scenario, he was the only one that survived.
His penance was his penance was just for him to survive and carry the weight of all the men that were with him.
That was like his big punishment from the gods, that he would be the only survivor of these men that he wanted so desperately to get home.
Yeah, and in the film, at least, that's the whole thing of like his destiny is to make it to the end, so that he can honor all those he lost during the war on his journey home. And essentially, like we mentioned, his guilt, overcoming it, and becoming essentially reborn into like a new person, where he can spend the remainder of his life with his wife that he hasn't seen in 20 years, and essentially try to have a decent life.
I think at the end of the film, when he leaves with his wife, I think he finds a bit of peace within himself, knowing that he was able to make it back home, be with his wife, make sure his son is safe, and then honor the man he lost on his journey there, on wherever he's gonna go. Like he said at one point in the film, we'll honor the dead by making it out alive and remembering them.
Yeah. Overall, this movie's just like I've been saying, it's a journey. And I think we've covered most of the significant parts from the movie. If there's anything we missed, feel free to let us know. But yeah, what did you think of the Odyssey?
Let us know in the comments.